I think it was life. It was just life in general. I know I had a son on the way. This is about 95. I had a son on the way, so I had to support him. So I kept trying to do my thing and going to the studio. I was working with Chip, this guy named Chip. Chip, what's up, dog? Pete. So, you know, we was making good music, but then he moved, and I was working with some other people, and they wasn't 110% into it. So I had to go work and make that money and keep the money coming. I think that was the thing that just did it right there. The money, gotta come in. You know what I'm saying? So don't make no money. I mean, you got love for it all day, but if it ain't making no money, then you gotta keep it moving.
It was really, for me, it was just at a point where, like I said, I just wasn't in love with the business piece of it. Like I could rock. I know if it came to it, like we could rock right now, but it's not. And still, I love music, and Whip loved music just the same way as we always loved it. But dealing with the political aspect of it, you know, dealing with the business piece of it, just got old. You know, it just got old. And the music business was so much different then. I tell people, like, we used to be in the studio when people like Kadeem Hardison used to come in. Remember, you know, he loved Simon Ezekiel's Puffy used to be in sessions. We used to have Tribe in our sessions. We used to be in their sessions. It was just a whole different feel where it was like organic to when it started changing when it wasn't organic. It was more like just, it was, you felt the business piece of it as opposed to just organically creating something, you know, and feeling like you had that creative freedom to express yourself. And I mean, it may exist now, and it probably does exist in some form, but just for us in our infancy and at that time, and we started feeling different about it, if you're not as passionate about it as you were at one point, you know, you really step away from doing it. So that's really where it was at. As far as the archives, you know, we got archives like Tupac. Yeah. You know, Tupac ain't got nothing on us.
Put out line every month.
You gotta break open the bolts, come on.
For me, I was writing, I always loved writing. And even like when I was 7, I remember writing my first book, like my first, you know, chapter book. So I just went to, I was doing some, from a journalistic perspective, you know, I did some stuff for The Voice, for Newsday. I was editor, still am editor at a.k.a. and they gave me an opportunity to do some things for them. And then I published a few books as well. Published The Trifling Times of Nathan Jones was my first book, Feds Magazine. I published the book with them, Once Upon a Time in Harlem. Then The Game of Trife, which was the sequel to The Trifling Times. Then I have an inspirational book, The Barack in Me, and I have Man the Trifecta, which is another book coming out. So I just went into more so, you know, I think creativity, you're always a creative person. Is where, you know, if you're a creative person, you're going to utilize that creativity in some way, manner, or form. So for me, it was still writing, but just writing, you know, writing books.
Back then, Long Island was hot. You had Bismarck, you had EPMD. Being from Long Island, and it was bubbling, it was like perfect. You know, Brooklyn was always like, it always got love. The Bronx always got love. But at that point in time, Long Island was just exploding with crazy people coming out of it, getting mad love. And this hip hop thing, as you can see, it moves, you know what I'm saying? Like right now, it's here, but it's not here, you know? So when it's here, then it's a real good thing.
You know, something else that was, I think, incredible about hip hop in Long Island was that at that time you had a lot of people that were transplanted in Long Island. Like they came from other places. So if you came, like you came from Brooklyn, you know, like my parents lived in the Bronx and moved out to Long Island, like lived in different boroughs and we came out to Long Island. But so you dealt with, so being one of the early, you know, the early groups of people of color moving out to Long Island, like in the 70s, that time period, you were dealing with, in some cases, like a racist element maybe, right? So it gave you a different aspect, a different point of view. And I think that all of those things, seeing those things, is what made Public Enemy what they were. Like seeing just different things from. I mean, not saying that he didn't, that Chuck and them didn't research and all of that other stuff, and they weren't well versed on things. But I mean, Long Island, being that, you know, being in Hempstead, but also being in surrounded by towns like Levittown, which at that time was real. You know, there was a lot of racist people there. It was just a ill area, because you could have one town that is predominantly black, the next town could be white, the next town be predominantly black. So it was just that went and helped create a lot of the flavors that came out of Long Island. Because think about that. Less than 20 minutes away from us, you had Amityville, where De La came out of. And our style was so much different than De La, but yet they were right there. And then you could go less than 20 minutes away from them, you have EPMD. EPMD was nothing like De La. Then you could go 10 minutes away from where De La was, 10 minutes away from where EPMD was, and have Rakim, who was so, you know, who was his own person, 5% and different than, you know, they were. So Long Island had so many pockets of creativity that we had cats that used to come from other areas just to see.
Force.
Keith Murray, you know, K Solo, you know, so many cats, man. I mean, I don't even want to miss people, because there's so many. I mean, you had dudes, you had so many dudes from Freeport, those cats that was rolling with,
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, I can't, I mean, but it was just so many people, it was just so many. And then there's rappers that really just, you know, didn't blow up per se, but still, you know, there was the group H2O. There was those dudes that made J Dub's theme that was down with, I can't remember their name. Then you had Soldiers of Fortune and so many cats. So, but all different. And I think that just being Long Island created that. Like always, I look at Buster and I say, Buster spent a lot of time on Long Island. He wasn't born on Long Island, but he spent a lot of time there. He was in Brooklyn, Long Island, Brooklyn, Long Island. And I think that Long Island flavor impacted who he was, you know, and that Brooklyn flavor impacted who he was. But Long Island's played a major role in just a lot of groups' creativity, because it was so much. It wasn't like you were seeing the same thing every day. Like I said, you could go from one town to the next and it'd be a whole different, you know, demographic, and yeah, the environment is just different and the people are different.
Yeah, definitely. You know, because it's always in you. Once you love when you love music the way we do, then, you know, if I get to a certain status, I'm gonna go back and put my album together and be like, yo, bro, you wanna get down, you get down. And definitely, I mean, you know what, hip hop started in the late 70s, early 80s. It's not over 40 years old. You know, I think as time goes on, give it like 60 years, let it get as old as these other music forms, we're going to have some 40, 50-year-old rappers. You know, once the time is put in, and then, you know, we get through the developing stages. We're still in the developing stages of this. It's not 50 years old. It's a young music. So it's going to be changes always, and it's going to come back to New York, and it's going to do a lot of different things. Hip-hop has done what it was supposed to do from day one. And it's a great thing. It's a beautiful thing.
I personally, I don't have aspirations to ever put out any music myself. Maybe to work with some groups. I think as somebody like in the mid-30s, 40s, 50s, if you establish already, I think Jay-Z can do it. I think Jay-Z is somebody who has established himself. So I don't think that people look at age first when they look at him. I mean, I don't really think that when I think of music or what made hip hop special to me, it was that youthful spirit that I felt when I was like, it was something, an energy where there was no bounds. There was nobody really. I hadn't experienced life enough to really realize I can only do certain things. So musically, I just explored everything, you know. I think as you get older, and that's why you get more mature, and that's why you hear maturity in Jay-Z's music. You hear Nas is different now, and people want that old reckless in regards to, but it's like, I've experienced life. I'm not that reckless. I don't need to do these things. So for me, I love that reckless energy. I love and it doesn't, I'm not saying reckless energy about talking about guns and selling drugs. I'm just saying that I like that just not knowing, just not being aware and exploring something and not even realizing that you're not supposed to do certain things, or maybe you're supposed to do it this way. It's like Organized Confusion's first album. First album to me was just all over the place in regards to there could be a rhyme for 10 minutes. But it was just like, yo, that was just that, like, yo, we gonna get out there. I mean, you remember when Pharaoh and them used to come with just the rhyme books, the WBAU and the college stations, when we all used to rock up there with just rhyme books and just be rhyming. That's how it was. So when you got a chance to really get on records, you was just rhyming, you know? And that's that youth thing. And then you get a little older and you're like, all right, there's a bridge and there's supposed to be a chorus and there's supposed, you know, other things come about. So for me, it's like, if I ever was to do anything musically, again, it wouldn't be me. It would be trying to guide and direct somebody else to kind of, you know, the next one that I recognize in it, if I ever had that, you know, aspirations of doing